even when you're doing a course, you have to be promoting it as people are going through the course, right? Like it's not just like, here's the course, see you later.
Yeah.
Like you have to actively promote it and encourage people to come back into the space. There's sometimes aspects of gamification and building in accountability and measuring people's results. So there's way more to creating a learning experience than just like, here's some content, can you make a course?
Hey, it's Renee. Welcome to the Into the Wild Show, a podcast designed to encourage women to take their back of the napkin idea, launch it, and grow a wildly successful business. I founded We Wild Women, an entrepreneur training company, to help women like you, moms and go-getters, start the business of their dreams the right way. Not too long ago, I launched my $1 million agency when I was 8 months pregnant with my first son and welcomed my second son only 11 months later. So I know how to grow businesses and babies. Join me as I teach you the guiding principles and how to start and grow your business while overcoming the voice in your head screaming, "It's not possible." These raw and funny episodes will make you feel like you're right here with me, sipping on some Pinot and leaving more confident saying, "Yes, I can." Every episode leaves you with some action items and a real kick in the ass to get started. Here on Into the Wild, you'll hear from other trailblazing entrepreneurs and experts because I know that the best advice is from someone who's successfully done it before. So put your headphones on, grab a cup of coffee, and tune in because Into the Wild is about to begin.
Subscribe to my mom's podcast.
Hey, you wild women! My next guest is an ex-corporate learning experience designer. She's a trusted advisor to entrepreneurs who are in the growth mode with their services and offers. She gets results for her clients by teaching them to think like learning designers and always putting their learners' needs front and center. Innately curious, she absorbs information at an alarming rate and has an uncanny ability to make that information learnable for others. Teaching is in her blood. A certified music and business teacher, she makes a career creating learning and teaching others how to build supportive learning environments. Please welcome the amazing Manja Horner.
Thank you so much. I feel like there should have been applause. This feels like it goes back to my music days on a stage playing the violin. No, but seriously, I'm so grateful to finally be chatting with you, Renee. This is a few months in the making. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, I always feel like when I'm reading someone's intro, it's like the price is right. And you're going to come on down.
I love that. I don't mind that. It's true that my career did start out as a music teacher and it's evolved so much. But to be honest, I still do crave those bits of being on a stage and performing because there's nothing like it.
Right. Okay, so you actually perform too.
Yes, I'm a violinist and I've been a professional musician since I was a teenager. That was how I made my money from the age of 13.
That I have like drums right next to me?
Actually, I did know you play the drums and I love that. I can play it mediocrely. But yeah, violin is my instrument.
That's a pretty badass instrument.
It's pretty cool. And you're from the East Coast, right? Of Canada?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I switched from classical to Cape Breton style fiddle.
Nice.
When I had huge demand from my students, they all wanted to fiddle.
What's more difficult, fiddling or classic?
Oh, classical.
Okay. I don't know the difference. I mean,
fiddling is just all speed.
Yeah.
But classical is so much technique. It takes tons and tons of practice. And I think that a lot of my philosophy around education comes deeply from the work that I started as a music teacher. That's really what drives a lot of my content now, because I'm a big fan of keeping things really practical and action oriented, no matter what your learning is. And I bring that even now in my consulting practice and my work with entrepreneurs. There's a huge focus on getting people to practice and do stuff and try. And I know you share that philosophy. You're an action taker.
Yeah. I follow the Pareto principle. The 80-20 rule is 20% of your time is learning, 80% of your time is doing the thing you just learned.
100%. And if we look at like adult learning principles or learning theory, there's another one that's like 70% of learning happens on the job. So you have to really be focused whenever you're creating anything that's training or learning related, that you get people figuring out how they can apply it right away in their workplace or in their life. You have to get people spending most of their time in the application and in the reality. That's super critical for adults and the way that we learn and the way that we retain information.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Okay, so let's jump into some quick questions before we dive too deep. I'd love to know, where are you from?
I am from Port Hope, Ontario.
Oh,
and I barely ventured away until I came screaming back because I wanted all the help from all the grandparents. And this is where they live. So Port Hope is just a little bit east of Toronto on the lake.
Oh, cool. I figured it was on the lake. And what is one of your favorite quotes?
Okay, I'm laughing because I literally stare at this quote all the time. My favorite quote is by Samantha Burngard. It's one of my favorites, and it's "Success is not easy, and it is certainly not for the lazy." And I think that just shows how deeply I care about working hard, even though I don't think we have to be like in hustle culture all the time. No, but it's just a reminder that it's not easy and you have to persist.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Ariana Huffington shared something on LinkedIn, I want to say today, about the Great Resignation that's happening. And I'm like, I reshared it by saying I have an unpopular opinion about this too. And this is not about everybody. I think what happened in the last couple of years has definitely helped us reevaluate and rethink the careers or the jobs or the businesses that we're running, which is great. It's kind of like the Great Reset. But I think it also contributed to lazy people's validation for not working. They're like, now there's like this cancel culture that they can be like, finally, I'm validated for being lazy. And people just asking for more than they really deserve. And I was like, I know, unpopular opinion, but I'm just going to say it as it is. And that's the truth. And so I love this quote that you shared because it's true. You have to work hard, and working hard isn't a bad thing at all.
No.
But for some reason, we made it seem like it is now.
Well, we won't get into politics, but like the more you start handing out cash, the easier it is for people to not go to work. But that is where I'm going to end this.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So what's one of the best pieces of business advice you ever received?
Oh, I think this is actually fairly recent. So it's probably why I'm recalling it right now. But it is focus less on how and start thinking more about who. And it just refocuses me on not like hustling and trying to figure out the how, because I am quite an action taker, but it's focusing more on the network. Like, who in my network can actually do this thing in my business way better than I can? And there's a book by Dan Sullivan, Who Not How. And so I immediately went and got that book on this recommendation. So I'll say the advice is from my coach, but it's actually from Dan Sullivan's book.
Okay. Who, not how. That's so true. And I think with like the tech behind a lot of these courses and programs that we're all trying to create is where people get hung up because there are so many options. And like, even to me now, I'm like, been really wanting to change everything over to Kajabi because right now I'm kind of like stitching together a bunch of different software that does what Kajabi does at the same price. So, and I'm hung up on it, but it's really, at the end of the day, it's irrelevant. One of my friends who has a company that does like intention decks and like beautiful journals for women and kids, she successfully created a collaboration with Jillian Harris. And which is kind of like that shining 15 minutes of fame. It's like, wow,
totally.
Jillian Harris has your product in her Jilly box. And it's like, she explained to me how this collaboration and partnership happened. And because of it, she got a lot of people requesting her as a coach to help them grow their e-commerce business.
Okay.
And how she started it was like, hey, I'm putting together this program and it's new. Here's my PayPal link if you want to join. That's
oh my goodness, yeah.
it. There's no fancy landing page, no fancy tech, no automation. It's like, pay me and I'll put you in the group, which almost gave me that permission to do the exact same thing. And I did that with an accountability group. I didn't know what I was doing. And I got 12 women in this accountability group and I followed the exact same method, just PayPal me the money.
it really helps if you have that warm audience that's ready, that already knows and likes you and trusts you and knows you're credible. And that just shows that you're an awesome subject matter expert, but also influential mentor, so to speak, for these people, right? And that's a really important first step when it comes to this journey of taking your expertise, taking the results you get for yourself or the results you get for other people and packaging that up into something that you can teach. And that's ultimately what we're all doing when we're creating these learning products or learning services.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so it's the who, not the how.
It's the who, not how. And it's become a major philosophy now in my approach going into the year. Whenever I have a new thing that I've thought up or that I'm like, okay, this is an important priority in my business, rather than being like, okay, I got to sit down and make a project plan. How am I going to go about this? I'm actually going, okay, who could maybe help me make this? Who can I lift and shift this to? Because I'm too busy at this stage in my business to be taking on all these parts of new projects. So it's something that I'm fully embracing.
I love it. I think I've been on a receiving end of some of those emails too. Not particularly reaching out to me, but like, I get it. And here's the thing is, I think a lot of people are afraid to ask for help and they just don't do it. And I will tell you this, I get pitched a lot to be on my podcast and collaborate and partner. There's still a sense of pride at this point from me when somebody asks me for something. Hey, do me a favor. Hey, can you help me with this? Can you help promote this? Because inevitably saying, I trust you and what you've built and your community. And I would love, and I'd be honored if that was a part of my journey as well.
Or like our values align. When I reach out for partnerships or collaborations, which I'm doing a lot more this year because of one of my licensed courses, it makes more sense for me to sell it through other people's platforms. So I'm doing a lot of that partnership outreach. And I've been just forming relationships and sitting kind of on the sidelines, as it were, of other people's businesses, just chatting and communicating. And now I'm like, okay, I feel like we align in our values. And so now I feel like I want to actually reach out for some sort of tangible partnership or collaboration. But otherwise, no, because you can't align yourself with people unless you know the values match.
Exactly. And it makes it for an easier ask too.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so what is one of your biggest business mistakes?
Not properly investing in an awesome idea. I think I had a business that I tried launching and it was massive. Like it involved cooperation at the government level, Ministry of Advanced Skills Development, with trade schools. It required big collaboration. And I got scared because I didn't get funding and I didn't know how to go about doing that. And I think I was hesitant. I was like, I don't know what I'm getting funding for. So I backed away and I let that business collapse. And that was the biggest learning was if you have an idea that's friggin' amazing, hopefully that's not a swear word.
Friggin's pretty good.
And you need it to get out there and you know there's a market for it, get the money, find the money. And as women, I don't think we're super good at doing that. We're used to bootstrapping and hustling until every dime is there to pay. But like sometimes you have to actually go out on a limb and get money.
Yeah. I had somebody ask me today, actually, that she's looking to buy a business with her husband. She's like, I don't know if we should do like a 50-50 split or I should have 51 and he should have 49 because if I'm majority owner, then it might open up more grant possibilities for me. And I'm like, I don't know this space, but something tells me intuitively, yes, have majority ownership. And anyway, sidebar, but it's true. Okay, so last quick question is, what book can you recommend today?
Ooh, a couple good ones. So that Who Not How is a super quick read that I just read recently. Yeah, I would say that's a really good one.
Okay. So you have a company called Boost Learning Design. And we met a few months ago and I've been following your journey and I just absolutely love what you're doing and the questions that you ask. But outside of this, I want to know actually, like what inspired you to start this company? Because you were a corporate exec person, a teacher, and all of a sudden you're doing this. Boost Learning Design, which sounds pretty cool.
Well, I think that's a great question to ask. And sometimes I wonder like, why specifically this?
Yeah.
But when I was a music teacher for a long time, and I decided at a certain point, it was time to get an education degree because I'd been a music teacher, but uncredentialed in a way. Like I had all the music credentials, but not the education side. So I went and got that education degree. spent years in corporate immediately after that. Because to be honest, I was tired of hearing all the bad violin mistakes. I was just actually tired of it. Like I hit sensory overload. And I'm like, if I hear another C sharp played wrong, I'm going to scream. So I literally shut down my studio. And I did this degree in education and I moved into the corporate space. So I was doing instructional design, major conference design, coaching programs, executive leadership. Like I was doing some incredible learning development for one of Canada's big banks. The only reason why I left that, to be frank, was life balance. I had 2 small kids, was commuting like crazy, and it was just burning me out from every angle. I spent a couple of years a little bit like unsure of what I wanted to do. And I was just freelancing for people, creating new learning products for them. And at a certain point, I'm like, wait a minute, I've got so much in my own brain. Why am I making stuff for other people? I was kind of tired of building something for someone and watching them sell it for $2 million in the next quarter. So I thought it's time for me to do this. And really, I have such a passion for entrepreneurs. And I know that sounds corny, but I grew up in a family of small business owners. And so my heart is there. I see how hard people work. I love it myself. I couldn't see myself doing anything else except for being my own boss and building a team and employing women.
Yeah. So how did you get your first customer?
Always word of mouth. I literally get all of my customers from word of mouth, from people who see what I do and are like, they've talked to somebody or they've heard of somebody. That's changing now that my presence online has grown. But when I first started this business, January 2020, I didn't have a single entrepreneur person in my network. Like technically, I didn't have anyone in my network who was a potential entrepreneur customer. Everybody was corporate leads and corporate clients. So it took a lot to actually build up this new online presence when I started my business. But I'm here now and it's fun. I'm getting great speaking opportunities and guest appearances and publications because I do have a really strong, credible corporate background. So it didn't take long to start building momentum, I think.
And you're applying a lot of PR principles to promoting yourself now, right? Because this is like you're doing more public speaking and getting on more podcasts and shows. And is that helpful?
Intuitively, PR felt like the best way for me to get out there because I don't love showing up on social media. I find it the biggest challenge to post consistently. But getting out on a stage and speaking, love it. Speaking on a platform like this, I love it. It energizes me. So to me, PR just felt right. And I think in this industry, for people to understand what you do, they have to follow along for a little while and hear you speak and hear you give examples. So PR feels like my favorite way actually of putting myself out there.
Well, I love hearing that because I believe it was one of my marketing predictions for 2022 was that there'll be less focus on, social media is still very important. It's not going to go away. It's going to be different, but it's going to be amplified by something else that you do. So you kind of have to do this together. So SEO and PR are huge for 2022, I believe.
Good advice.
The table stakes are you need to have, first of all, if you're going to leverage any social channel to promote yourself, at least put something into it, right? You don't have one post a week that's just a picture of your dog.
No.
But yeah, I genuinely believe PR is going to be the thing this year. And I think we all have to get over ourselves and be okay with promoting ourselves.
Yeah. I'm actually switching gears for 2022. I started my podcast in March this past year, and I love it. I think it's a great tool to get my thoughts out and highlight awesome speakers and experts of their own right. And so, my podcast is aimed completely at learning development and strategies and business models and that sort of a thing. But something I really want to get back to is my innate love of teaching. And so I've been thinking, what is the platform for that? And I'm going to be starting a series of live streams over the next couple of months. So for February and March. And I'm going to be teaching, I'm giving tutorials of how to do stuff and how to get prepared to create a new course or to create a new learning offer. So I'm actually really excited about that. It's just going to be free, live stream, LinkedIn, YouTube. And I want to try this as a new kind of way of putting myself out there, but really becoming practical this year. That's another thing. I felt like last year was a lot more theoretical. Here's the philosophy. Here's why we should be creating great learning experiences. This is why it brings integrity. But in the coming year, I'm all about like practical. How do we do this? How do we actually apply this? So I'm kind of excited to switch gears.
Hey there, Renee here. Before we continue on with Manja's episode, I wanted to tell you about something you might want to take action on today. It's called the February Accountability Group. Now, I know we're almost in February, or if you're listening to this early, we may have already started the month. But we are wrapping up our first month of the year now, and the group is already crossing off many of their priority tasks. And let me tell you, these are some big wins, huge wins. Their secret is setting the right goal, sharing that goal, creating the system to continuously work towards that goal, and surrounding themselves with a group of women that are overly willing to help and hold you accountable. How does that sound? It's like a coffee date with a few besties. So to get more information or to join the next group, all you have to do is go onto Instagram and direct message me at Renee_Warren. That's RENEE_WARREN. Use the word accountability on Instagram. Direct message me and I'll send you all of the information because it'll be so much fun to have you join us in February and maybe in March and maybe in April. So go on Instagram, find me Renee_Warren and send me a quick message and I will send you the details. I hope to see you there. Okay, so I want to know, what exactly is a learning experience designer and what do you do?
Yeah, cool. So there's a couple of different types. These come from the corporate world. So instructional designer is somebody who is handed a learning strategy and they're like, hey, can you take all of this content and turn it into something that's learnable? So that's an instructional designer. But there's kind of a parallel role called a learning experience designer. And I actually supported York University in Toronto with a brand new LXD program. So I contributed to what that looks like, to retrain people to be certified LXD professionals. So that was a cool thing I did this past year. And as part of that process, we had to really define like, okay, there's so many terms floating around. What is an LXD or learning experience designer? And it's somebody who considers the entire experience front to back. So it's a lot more holistic or inclusive of, let's just say, the marketing aspect, because even when you're doing a course, you have to be promoting it as people are going through the course, right? Like it's not just like, here's the course, see you later. Yeah. Like you have to actively promote it and encourage people to come back into the space. There's sometimes aspects of gamification and building in accountability and measuring people's results. So there's way more to creating a learning experience than just like, here's some content, can you make a course? There's a ton of aspects, and that LXD really captures the full essence of the experience. So that's the definition. And I feel like you had another question to follow that up.
What do you do?
What do you do? Okay, so I would say like one of my favorite parts about being a consultant for entrepreneurs is I work with them to come up with the strategy. So you don't often just need, oh, here's my content. Let's just hammer out a course. I need some videos and a workbook. But it's like, are we actually hitting the right needs? So there's 4 things I want your audience to be aware of. Here's my tutorial coming in. One is like, what is the knowledge that people need to gain from this course? The second is, what kind of skills do they need? What do they need to be able to do differently after going through this course? The third is confidence. Like, what kind of confidence do I need to build in them? And the fourth is attitude or mindset. So how do I need them to think differently? It's one thing to be a teacher, somebody who can get up there and use a specific set of skills, like engaging a room and asking questions and in partaking knowledge and like guiding people to explore and experience and to think. But it's totally different to be a learning designer. You have to put on a ton of hats. Like you're a copywriter, you're a marketer, you're a neuroscientist, you're a behavioral psychologist. You're all these things because you're actually changing people's behavior.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy. There's actually like a lot that goes into this in the back end than just like pumping out some handouts.
I know it irks me when people are like, oh yeah, just create a course or when they say, oh, here's a great marketing strategy for this year is just grow your email list. Like, what the F does that even mean? Like just creating a course, believe me, I've tried. I've just created courses before and they failed so miserably for many reasons that I know of now. But one thing that I learned of while I was going through Amy Porterfield's Digital Course Academy is the importance of course completion. So as instructors, most of us like, I don't care. I got the money. That's all that matters. But that's where we fail, right? So
that's
explain why.
Yep.
Why is that bad news?
Well, that's bad news because people are actually buying a transformation. They are buying a result from you. They're not just buying a course for the sake of having that on a shelf. They want something out of it. You've described in your marketing, these are the benefits and like, here's what you're going to get, or here's what you're going to walk away with, or here's how you're going to change, right? You promote outcomes and a transformation. And if you've created your program properly or your course properly, that transformation can occur if people get all the way through or if they do it. The challenge is when people don't do it. And we do have a joint responsibility with the learner to encourage people as much as possible. Obviously, you can lead a horse to water and you can't force them to drink. So that does happen. But we do have a joint accountability or responsibility that we're creating something that's bingeable, that's finishable. I've got a lot of podcast topics about this actually, which dig really deep into this concept of completion and how can we make our courses actually more finishable? It's important that people finish. If they don't, they just constantly feel like a failure. It's not great actually to leave people hanging.
No. And here's the thing too, is like a lot of courses is people come in and they'll get the 80% of the value that they think they need. So they just don't finish it. I'm guilty of that. Yeah. I actually can't even tell you a course that I've completed. Like even Amy Porterfield's DCA, get to the point where it was so overwhelming with what was required of me to successfully launch a course that I just stopped showing up.
That's what I've heard actually from that course in particular. Like I've owned it as well. And there's a lot of incredible content there. Oh, yeah. And there's so much. And that's like pretty tricky for people. It's better if you can give people smaller pieces of a longer journey, but give them the smaller bits so it's way more digestible. And there's some creative ways that when you work with a consultant alongside you, that you can create an experience that actually feels manageable, people can finish, and they feel rewarded when they're done.
Yes.
I just want to leave your audience with something hopefully profound, but like, do not be offended by your own inability to do this. We get so like, I can't do it, so I must be a loser. Like, don't be offended. You would not try to, I don't know, pull out your own tooth or like do your own dental work or like cut down a massive tree beside your house with a chainsaw. Like you would not do those things. So why do we feel pressured to do this in our own business just because the gurus say you should be able to? It's not true. There's nothing wrong with also partnering with an expert.
It leads me to believe as well as like the CEO shouldn't be the one writing the paychecks. The CEO shouldn't be the one checking the mail. So there's part of this, especially if it's like you're in like a super niche industry, is like you don't need to learn how to do this because you know the content. You don't need to know how to do this. And this is where people come in and they hire you, correct?
Right. And we're in such a DIY world. Yeah. That we think like, oh, I can just figure that out. I'll just go to like a YouTube video and figure it out. Why? I had my best friend, she grew up on a farm and she always said, I never, ever got in a tractor because the minute they know I can do it, I will be plowing the field. She's like, absolutely. Will I never let them know that I can drive this thing?
That's
hilarious. And I'm sometimes jealous when I'm in some other like groups with clients where they're like, oh, I don't know how to update a web page. I'm like, it's so easy to do, but like good on you. Because that means you're not trying to take that thing on. So yes, this is how I work with people. Like I do audits of people's courses, which is a really helpful way to get that reassurance that what you're doing is on track. Like you can let me take a peek in behind the scenes and go, okay, this looks amazing. And here's some things that would make this super fantastic. So the audit is a really fun way that I love to kind of initially engage with people. But the second is I have like just a really amazing accelerator program. So if you are ready and you need to work with somebody to help bring this vision to life, you need a who, not a how.
Yeah.
Then I walk you through the very start. Like, okay, What's your idea? Okay, here we go. And kind of draw you through that process until you have a finished program or a finished course or a workshop or something that you want to sell to as a corporate training program. Or sky's the limit when it comes to the way you can package and sell your content. Do not think that a course or a membership is the only way, or a group coaching program. That is not the only way. There's tons of variations. And it's that out of the box thinking that I love in a strategy session with a client.
Cool. Yeah. It's funny because these are things that I just never thought that I needed, right?
I know, right?
Or that any course creator, because like there's lots of courses on how to build a course, but there's things that are left, and I don't know all of them, but, and I allude to like my examples of my time in Amy Porterfield's program. And I love Amy and I love what she's created. It's great. And it's been very successful for some people that have been able to go through it and do everything checklist done that she explains to do. I just don't learn that way. It's too much. And that's the thing too, is you need to be pervy to different learning styles. Some people are kinesthetic, some people are audio, some people are visual, and how that affects the success of that customer, of the student, is really important. Okay. So then my next question is, why should we be thinking about how adults learn when it comes to the courses or coaching programs we are selling?
Well, adults learn in a very specific way. There's lots of research around adult learning and the science there and the neuroscience, but ultimately we're trying to adhere to some basic principles. And there's 6 that I highlight, and I don't have them listed in front of me, so I'm not going to try and ream them off. But essentially it's make your content very relatable. It should be absolutely practical. It needs to be at the right time for that person in their life so that they can apply it. They need to have some element of control over the learning process. And you mentioned actually that you have a lot of courses where maybe you've done 80% of it. And there's nothing wrong with that, because I think when we do a course and we put it out there with like a learner persona, it doesn't take into account all of your prior learning. You may have a lot of skills that you only needed a little portion of that course. So it's not the end of the world, but you felt in control of that, right? You pulled the stuff that was relevant for you at the time. And that's a good thing, because that's how adults learn. The other thing is there's a forgetting curve. It's by this like a century-old philosophy. It's like the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. And it's 60% of learning is forgotten immediately unless you get somebody to apply it or to envision themselves in it or to consider how this relates to their life. So you have to do that right away.
Wow. That alone then makes me think, and I know you probably know the statistics behind this, that as teachers, we put way too much into our programs, right? Because we think the value is in how much is in there and not what is in there.
So true. Like something can be highly transformative if you help somebody create new habit. That could be massively transformational. And you could have very little knowledge or like lecture. How much of your undergrad do we actually remember? Very, very small bits.
Remember where I used to lock my bike when I went to college.
I remember a couple of situations, and I think it's only because they were really relevant to me at the time. Like I was already noodling over, because I have a business degree as well. And I was already like noodling over a business concept, or I was already thinking of something. And so then I could put myself into like the scenario. But otherwise, most of it is totally forgettable. So it just proves that knowledge doesn't count. Like we can go find anything at any time. That's why I always say like, give them a textbook, something that's easily searchable, and let that be a reference document. But you don't have to always be like telling them all the stuff.
Yeah.
So if you have 10 minutes of your students' time, figure out how you can get them to take action in those 10 minutes. Don't use the 10 minutes to give them a video.
Right. The transformation is simple. And going back to the 75 Hard program. So I've talked about this before in my show, and I'd finished 75 Hard in the fall. So what 75 Hard is a program. You have 75 days to complete a power list of things, or 75 days, every day you have to do these things. that include 2 45-minute workouts, one of which has to be outside, regardless of the weather conditions, a gallon of water, progress pictures, 10 pages of a book, follow a diet, no cheat meals, no alcohol. Okay. There's an app for it. And all you do is every day is you go and you check off the things. And it's out of integrity. You know, when you checked off your last thing, it automatically brings you to the page which shows the full 75-day calendar. And then when you check off your last day, it says, congratulations, you've completed 75 hard. It's not complicated. Those are the lists. It's arbitrary. The guy Andy Frisella put together because he wanted to win a bet to try to get his body fat down to like 12% in the next 75 days. So he put this together for himself.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, he didn't talk to a dietitian or nutrition or doctor or anything. He did it for himself.
Just did it. Yeah.
Guess how transformational this program has been for hundreds of thousands of people. It's changed lives. It is so simple.
Well, and like I have created learning experiences that were delivered by text message or like email. Like it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be this like major thing. Like sometimes it's something simple. Sometimes it's giving somebody the right tool set so they can practice a hard conversation.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. And we all have this expectation that we have to create some massive program with like 100 modules. And it's like, ew, no one wants to do that anymore.
No, I know.
No offense, but
I know some really brilliant people like Taki Moore and oh my gosh, the names are slipping my mind. And I've seen the inside of their programs. My husband has given me access to go in and look inside because he has like a spreadsheet. And as soon as I go in there, I'm immediately overwhelmed. I'm like, where do I start? Like, how long is this going to take? What do I have to dedicate to actually making progress in what it is I'm trying to achieve? It's not to say they're wrong. The programs are great, big changes. However, I think maybe where a lot of people kind of are intimidated and where they either don't launch the course, they don't create the proper thing out of relevancy is because they think they have to put more into it.
I got to leave you with something here because one of the biggest challenges, a lot of our subject matter expertise is very niche.
Yeah.
So for example, let's just say like, okay, let's use you for an example. Okay, PR. Maybe it feels insecure just to create like something that could be taken in a weekend with some tools and then some like reminders to hold people accountable. Maybe that's like, I don't know, is that enough? But you don't have to create the whole sales strategy and plan and all the things and write their articles for them. Like we feel like we need to create this big comprehensive thing. It might feel insecure or awkward to just like hone in on that one small piece of the pie. And sometimes it's true because that can be awkward as just a standalone. Like I have a course, it teaches people how to make a learning product or service. And I do not have it available for sale. It is only available within a business coaching or a sales coaching program because that's where it works. That's where it fits. All by itself, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually sell that content as a licensed model. So the business coach just pays me a fee to have this included in their program. And it's smart because it doesn't work as a standalone. It's missing the whole sales component.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to think creatively about how you sell your expertise as well. Sometimes something super specific and super niche, it can work really well and you should be teaching it, but you might need to find a creative way to get it in the right place.
Yeah.
And not be selling it as a standalone. So that's just a little like thought to maybe put in listeners' ear if they're nervous about being super niche down and specific.
I love this. Okay. Are there any parting words you want to say about what you do?
I think it's just recognize that something this significant for your business, something that will generate this much revenue potentially, it takes so much time and energy to get it done and right. And so don't be afraid of investing and getting help from somebody who has done this like hundreds of times. Don't be afraid to get that help because you're going to get to market way faster. It's going to be way less of a headache. And you won't find yourself tossing like 3 or 4 courses in the trash. You'll just be able to come out with something that, because it's based on research and data, it's going to work.
Yeah. Cool.
So I'll just leave with that. Don't be afraid to get help.
Okay. So one last question for you. When I ask you what it means to be a wild woman, what is that for you?
Yeah. No. A wild woman is just being like really unabashedly true to me. And what I know is true. I don't care about being popular. It has never been a thing. I've always been a weird violin band camp kid. Like I've never tried to be popular and it serves me well. So that to me is just be you and don't try to be a cookie cutter.
I love it. Don't be weird.
Yeah,
my son came home from school one day and we're talking. Oh, I was like being silly. I had like fake glasses on or something. And my 9-year-old was like, that's so not cool. Because I'm picking him up at school and the window's down. Everyone can see me. And he sits down in the car. And he's like, Mama, you're so weird. And I go, that's the compliment I wanted. I want to be weird. I want to be different. I want to be goofy because guess who's memorable? It's the weird person. We can all remember who's the nerd and the weird person from high school, right? Because they're memorable. They're different. I love that.
I was never cool. I always wished I was, but I wasn't.
Oh man, I was so not cool. I was like the uncoolest of them all. And I owned it. I didn't care.
Yep, whatever.
Last person to get a boyfriend.
Oh, I was too busy for that.
I know. I was like, I don't have time for this.
No.
I got other things to do. Okay, so if people want to go online to find you, follow you, or potentially work with you, where can they go?
Yeah, find me at boostld.com. And LinkedIn is a place I love to connect. I'm going to be doing my live streams there. So catch those tutorials. And I have a big project underway to gather all these beautiful education-based entrepreneurs into the Boost Learning community. So go to my website, boostld.com, and check that out if you're in this space and you need support and collaboration.
Cool. All that is in the show notes. So Manja, thank you so much for joining us today, you wild woman.
Thanks for having me.
So there you have it. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Into the Wild. To make this girl happy and to help reach other women who are dreaming of starting their business, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and everywhere you listen in. Also, if you want to find me in the wild, check me out on Instagram at Renee_Warren. That's RENEE_WARREN. And leaving you with one of my favorite tips of all time, the best advice you could ever receive is from someone who has successfully done it before you. Until next time, ladies, peace out.